Gustav Klimt and Elon Musk. I understand this is probably not something people expect as a comparison. I have been recently looking into Vienna as a city of the new modern age, the late 19th century Vienna, of course, not today's Vienna. And the reason I'm so excited about this comparison is that we had some massive social changes in the 19th century. We had technological innovation, we had social innovation, moral innovation. The Enlightenment was hitting, or the rubber started meeting the road of the Enlightenment, and that just created this enormous progress, enormous change in many ways: civil rights, human rights, women's rights, technology, living standards. So Gustav Klimt is an artist, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, and I'm going to compare him to Elon Musk. And before I go into this episode a little bit deeper, I just want to bring out the main idea, and the ideas of a wholesome new way of looking at things, and fundamentally also that the future does not depend on the academy. I'm going to elaborate what that means. This is the Not Even Wrong podcast. It's April 29th, 2021. This is Krim Delco. For the day, the fund is down about 2.3%. The market is up about 20 basis points. For the year, we are down 1.9%, and the market is up about 10.7%. So we are underperforming by 11.8%. The market's still open. These numbers could change. So let's talk about, first of all, Vienna in the 19th century, then Gustav Klimt, then Elon Musk, and today's time, and how I connect these two phenomena. So Vienna in the 19th century is a symbol of the new modern age, of a new rise of law, of professionalism, of engineering, of architecture, which is not divine, Christian, Catholic driven, but more engineering driven. There's, of course, old structures such as the emperor and things like that are still in place. So it's the country, the town is in transition. And I've spoken about this in the past. One of the beautiful examples of how we can see how this social and economic change is manifesting itself in architecture is that we have the Ringstrasse in Vienna, which is this new built out complex of museums, operas, and apartments. And the apartments are these large, lavish apartments that are meant for the new class of merchants, of financiers, of lawyers, and they represent this new class. The lawyers are the representatives of the law. The merchants are the financiers, are the representative of capitalism. So this is what I meant with the rubber met the road when it comes to the Enlightenment, because the Enlightenment is opening up structures, changing social structures, and they're not coming from the academy. And this is now what I mean with that is the academy is they're not coming from the Ancien Regime. So the people that live in these lavish apartments are not the aristocrats, the landowners of the old. It's the new merchant class, the financier class. The people that are deciding what's right and wrong are the lawyers. It's not the bishop, God, or somebody like that. Of course, again, everything is still embedded in the emperor structure, and there is absolute monarchy. But we have this change, and it manifests itself visually. Now, Gustav Klimt is an artist who was who was sort of up and coming in those times. He started as a decorative artist for those lavish buildings in the Ringstrasse, and then later on became a famous painter. His paintings today are part of the classic, multi-$100 million type paintings whenever they get sold. So no need to introduce him to modern art collectors. But I just want to use him because he did not come from the academy. So he was, if you want, a bit of a renegade artist in the sense that he did things differently. He would show some of his famous paintings, like a woman shown from weird dimensions, shown a little bit, I would say, not slutty, but certainly for those times, shockingly slutty, because she doesn't look like an angel or a divine person or anything like that. She looks like a sexy, hot woman. And there's another woman where he shows the mistress of the emperor, which, of course, even the name of that painting or the description of that painting itself is appalling to any kind of absolutist monarch type thinking. So we have this new force, this new energy of visual and social and artistic expression, which is driven by these new social and economic developments in the city. And I feel like this reminds me of today with Elon Musk. Elon Musk does not come from the academy. Yes, he went to university. He didn't even finish his PhD. So he's a person that is not, absolutely not, putting up with any kind of establishment. And that is not just a choice because he's a rebel. It's because what he's trying to do cannot be solved with the tools of the establishment. It has to be solved with new ideas, what we called on this podcast many times with iteration. And he has to focus on iterating at low cost so he can actually disrupt the establishment. I think in that sense, similarly, the architects and painters and decorative artists of late 19th century Vienna, they must have had the same issues. They were disrupting the old order. The only way you can disrupt an old order is through continuous iteration, and they had to find ways to express themselves and deliver, instantiate ideas into let's say architectural technology that allowed to for the new things to prosper and to replace the old things. So in that sense, I think the big question, of course, I have today for myself is, well, if I'm right on Elon Musk and Tesla, how is that going to manifest itself, let's say, in architecture or in the way things look, in the way things feel, in the way we live? And I think the last earnings call was actually a wake-up call on that front when Elon Musk spoke about, he said famously, it must happen. What must happen? The decentralized energy infrastructure needs to be built based on distributed solar. It must happen. So this is one big manifestation of architecture, social change that is coming. Social change because we're less dependent on top-down utilities, we're less dependent on governments, we are much more decentralized as a society. And this is not just because now we have blockchain technology and stuff like that, but it's also because, like Musk said, we want to have distributed solar as the fundamental base of our whole energy infrastructure. And it's not just transport, it's also heating and factories and everything else. So this is the first manifestation. I think Tesla will drive architectural, social change or visual change. So 50 years from now, we will think back and say, this was the beginning. We had this sort of Gustav Klimt type entrepreneur, and wholesome thinking person that looks at the world from all dimensions at the same time, very similar to Gustav Klimt, who he wasn't exactly like a cubist like Picasso, but I would say that he laid the groundwork for people like Picasso to start painting in multi-dimensions. And what that means is that you see the world also in multi-dimensions. It means that you're able to think beyond the necessities of right now, beyond the necessities of, okay, how can I, let's say, make a product which succeeds in the market right now versus how can I build an infrastructure in a wholesome way to really solve a massive problem or to proliferate a new technology to the point where it can not just solve, let's say, the problem of decarbonization of energy infrastructure, but also maybe democratize the world and give people more optionality, which is part of our mission statement at Orange Capital Partners when we talk about large impact. I think I also spoke about this in the past. What we really mean is that we want to invest in technology that increase optionality for regular citizens. So I think Elon Musk is therefore very much in that same realm of like the Viennese architects and engineers and lawyers and financiers of the 19th century were, where he is proliferating a new way of thinking, a new way of doing things, a new way of business. And I think we will see, similarly to Vienna, which was an architectural manifestation of that in terms of you saw new buildings, lavish apartments, operas. We will see the same thing happen. I don't know how it's going to exactly pan out in terms of architect. I'm not an architect myself. I think one thing we're going to do here at Orange Capital Partners is spend a little bit more time in the art world in the next couple of months. And maybe try to attend some architecture lectures and things along those lines, just to get a bit of a sense for how the sensitivities of the contemporary culture Are they in tune with what Musk is doing or not? I think it gives us a good insight into if we're on the right track, because those sensitivities, those trends, those feelings, emotions, they can't just be in isolation. Like Musk will not be able to transform the energy infrastructure and the utility infrastructure and electricity infrastructure and the transportation infrastructure without hitting sensitivities in the art world and architecture world. This will not happen. So therefore, we believe that this is a good indicator. It's certainly not something where we can go to a lecture and then make an investment right after. Oh, he said this and that, and now we're going to invest. It's not like that. But it gives you a bit of a sense for, okay, where do we stand in terms of our thesis and the way we see the future, and then how does the sort of the early indicators of society, which is the art world and the architecture world, how are the sensitivities there? Are they in tune with our thesis, or are they way off? So this would be very interesting, and I will of course report back. But I wanted to push out this episode to give people a bit of a sense for what we're going to do in the next couple of months in terms of trying to assess the sensitivities of the art world and the architecture world with relation to what Musk is doing, what Tesla is doing. It's like I said, the energy infrastructure is one of the big changes that we see coming in terms of how we live and how visually our places of dwelling will look in the future. I think another big one is, of course, the Boring Company, but Tesla itself. I mean, if you just look at fundamental, let's say, simple pictures of a Tesla rooftop with a house and a car and things like that, it just looks different. It feels different. It's just the beginning. I'm sure there is more to come, but you can see that we are definitely on the cusp of a new area of how people live, how people work, how people think. I think SpaceX, of course, has huge implications. Again, we spoke about this, that if we go to Mars, I think also the way we live on Earth will change. And this is, again, something that we're very happy to go a bit deeper. We had an interview with Pnam Bagley about this, a space architect, and we tried to go a little bit deeper into how she thinks that the actual pictures on the world, on Earth, will change when we go up there. Whenever you see something from outside, from up there, also your inner workings change a little bit. Like when Columbus discovered America, it is very likely that also the architecture, let's say in Florence and Venice and these towns, Genoa, these immediately affected towns from the discovery, how they changed because they started seeing themselves more as a global center and less as a parochial small village. So to summarize, we think that the study of contemporary art and architecture and the study of the sensitivities of those people and the trends is very useful for us to see if we're on trend with our thesis that we are looking at the future of a decarbonized, decentralized energy infrastructure driven by Tesla. That is not an investment thesis in its own. I don't think we can make money by looking at what the art world is doing and then translating it back into, oh, this is what's going to happen in the stock market. However, I think it can cement our thesis, because if we're right and we're looking at a decarbonized and decentralized energy infrastructure, including transport, housing, and factories, then I think we should see also the first trends in the art and architecture world. And this is the idea here. Thank you.